My name is Fawn Yacker. I'm the project director for The Last Closet, which is a web campaign and video project to end homophobia in men's pro sports. I'd like to thank you, Alderman Moore, for taking the responsibility for having this resolution here in Chicago, and Alderman Tunney and Kappelman for co-sponsoring it, and all the co-signers as well, who may not be here today. And all of you guys, thank you for coming. It's great to see you here finally. Your names and support allowed us to gather a strong speakers list today to talk about anti-gay bias. Although our focus is sports, each speaker lends a perspective on the challenges undertaken to create a society that is inclusive and tolerant, not only in sport, but in the culture at large. They will also speak to the triumphs and progress that seems to be coming more quickly and more abundantly than anyone had anticipated. When Chicago first agreed to be the second city, San Francisco was the first, to pass this historic resolution, no commissioner of any of the 5 major sports, U.S. major sports, had responded to the 1,000 plus letters that were sent to them via the Last Closet letter writing campaign. The letters asked them to end the prevailing silence around homophobia in sports and agree to an on-camera interview where they would be asked 2 questions. Would you be willing to invite your gay players to come out? And would you have viable safety nets in place for them once they do? We reasoned that if pro athletes knew that those in power had their back, they might feel safe enough to come out. Up until last week, there had been no athletes who had come out publicly while actively playing in any of the top 5 major sports. Our ultimate goal was to have these athletes come out so that LGBT youth, who so often are struggling with self-acceptance and way too often attempting or succeeding in taking their lives, could finally have role models in professional sport. And young athletes aspiring to the pros could finally feel secure that once they were there, they would not be alone. We launched our first campaign in the Last Closet website in September 2012. Since then, there has been an avalanche of progress within the LGBT sports movement, as well as our country's steady but sometimes stumbling march towards inclusion. As recently as this year, a number of organizations have sprung up to address what was considered the last closet of professional sports. It is no wonder that the LGBT civil rights movement set its sights on athletics. Sports plays a pivotal role in our culture. Some surveys note that over 85% of the U.S. population consider themselves sports fans. Athletes are our national heroes, and slowly but surely the LGBT community is gathering their own. As our leaders step up publicly to state that they defend the rights of LGBT citizens, there's a palpable sense that the fear of gay people is abating. The polls continue to zoom, relatively speaking, in favor of gay rights. Proudly, several of Chicago's pro teams have actively and enthusiastically supported the LGBT community. The Chicago Fire, without hesitation, invited now retired out soccer player Robbie Rogers onto their team if he should ever decide to play again. Last month, National Hockey League Commissioner Gary Bettman became the first commissioner to state on camera that he welcomes gay players to his league and would secure their safety once there. Less than 2 weeks ago, the National Football League announced its new educational platforms created in anticipation of players coming out in their league. And finally, we have our first publicly out active player in the top 5 major sports. Thank you, Jason Collins. There's an out top executive in the NBA, there are out sports announcers, news broadcasters, high-ranking military officials, and the list goes on. It's time to celebrate and also time to dig in for the long haul. This resolution, in some ways, is symbolic. In its essence, it is asking leadership to become visible in their support for LGBT citizens. That visibility gives those who so desperately want to become visible themselves an opening in the closet door. It is exciting to see the leadership here in Chicago make themselves visible and these issues visible by holding public hearings. It is a great educational opportunity for all of us in attendance and hopefully another opening in many of those closed doors. I'd like to show a short video produced by The Last Closet that models that visibility in the straight ally and I think sheds a bit of light on why homophobia has prevailed in the macho world of pro sports. But first I'd like to do a shout out and give a few women who made this hearing possible. Adriana Moreno Navarez, who may not be here today, started us on the journey, and Alderman Moore's Chief of Staff Betsy Vandercook guided us through to this moment. Christina Carl, who apparently knows everybody.
Andriana was the committee staff person.
Right.
On the Human Relations Committee, just so folks know who she is. Yeah.
Thank you. And Christina Carl, who seems to know everybody in Chicago, has connected us to the Alderman's office and eventually to Caroline Stark at Equality Illinois, who is extremely helpful with outreach, and I can't thank you all enough for getting us here today. So, and then I didn't give your credentials, Christina, but Christina writes for ESPN.com. She was co-founder of a Baseball Prospectus and is on the board of You Can Play and does many, she's a very active person in the sports community, LGBT sports community. Can the lights be, Jim?
Well,